What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with ActuallyAdditions. Today, guys, we are going to be messing around with the player interface, which is a very cool and useful block, but it's also slightly expensive. So I would not recommend this if you're pretty early on in your world, you're just starting out and you're a little bit low on resources. But if you've got resources to spend, then by all means, set this up because it's going to be a huge quality of life change. So the easiest way to explain this is that it's an extension of the player's inventory, but it's in block form. And the reason that that is so important, and I want to stress that it's in block form, is because that allows us to input stuff into it, whether it's power, items, anything like that can go into this block, and then it goes to the player's inventory. Now, if you're on a server, you can hook it up to other players. It's not just going to be hooked up to yourself. I'm not going to discuss that in depth today. Just know you do need to use the player probe, and it is a little bit finicky when you work with other players, so I would highly recommend you keep it to just yourself. Now, the two things we're going to be doing today, and the two main things you'll probably use this for, is going to be power going into your inventory and items. I actually don't know if you can do anything other than those two. Other than maybe, putting liquid into your inventory and drowning yourself. I don't know. That took a really dark turn. But yeah, so we're going to be putting power in, and that's going to be the first thing. It's very simple to do, and it's pretty much going to act as a wireless charger. So right now, if you guys remember the episode when I set this up, it was right after I made my drill, and the point of this is that you throw your drill in, and it gets charged up to full, or pretty much anything that uses power in here. You can see a lot of things will have these power bars, a lot of these rings, a lot of stuff that we're not using right now, but it requires power, and it's going to require constant charging. And I really hate having to come over here after I do every little thing, go on mining trips, pretty much anything around the base, and I always want to recharge this. But if we do this setup, we pump power in to the player interface, it's hooked up to us, and then as long as we are in the range, the base is 32, it will charge our drill for us, or anything else in our inventory. Then, along with that, we'll pump items in there. And I think the most useful one to pump in is going to be food. And the reason I say that is because food is one of the things that you always have in your inventory. You're never not going to have food in there. Sure, you might not have building blocks in your inventory all the time, but you'll always need food, and you're going to need it coming in a constant supply. And I'm also a little bit low on it right now. I only have one cooked pork chop, so I could do with a little bit more food in my inventory at the time. So to do that, we're going to be setting up fishing nets, which are just kind of blocks from ActuallyAdditions that we've never really messed around with before. You could set up pretty much any kind of farm, but we're going to set up the fishing nets. Those will get us both fish and a couple, random things you might get from fishing. Hopefully some enchanted stuff. We'll use that for a later episode with the lens of disenchanting. But the fish is then going to come out, go into a powered furnace, and get put into our inventory. So it'll be very nice, and we'll just kind of regulate the amount of fish that we're getting using either more or less of the fishing nets. So I did actually have to upgrade this to a medium storage crate because it's getting a little bit full, and I decided the second page is now going to be used for all the crafting stuff for the episode. And this stuff is actually pretty expensive. I mentioned that before when I first started it out. Everything's really cheap except for the actual player interface, which surprised me because it's not, in my opinion, a super useful block. It's just kind of quality of life, but I guess that's kind of what you got to do. So it requires a lot of diamond, probably about half a stack, a little bit over a stack of ender pearls, a lot of black quartz, and a wither skull. Luckily for me, I didn't have to use a bunch of diamond repairing my gear though, because I could use the item repairer, which is just a very simple block, not going to cover it super in depth. But all you do is anything that can be repaired in an anvil, you put it in here and it'll use power to repair it. So I kind of took it apart, I guess, or I didn't hook it up or keep it hooked up because this thing burns through power. It uses up a ton. I believe it's 2,500 CF per tick. So just a heads up. But so what we're going to do is first things first, we need to take these emeralds, and we've never done this before. So I'm doing it on camera, but we're going to put them in the Empowerer because we need to convert them first. So we're going to convert these to the ActuallyAdditions version, and then we are going to put these emeraldic crystals in here. They're not really expensive to upgrade. It takes some grass, some slime balls, some lime, and oak saplings. I guess the most annoying one was finding slime balls just because I didn't actually know where a ton of slimes were, had to venture out. But we'll do that. I don't think it'll take super long. I really hope it doesn't. Oh, wow. It's actually really, really fast. Okay. So we'll grab that out. I probably should have a hopper set up for this. But you know what? I don't do a ton of this on camera, so shouldn't be too big of an issue. So do this. I just think it's funny how it's all green stuff. Obviously, I'm sure that was intentional. Usually the stuff matches the color. The diamonds take a lot of clay, So when you have to empower those, I would suggest getting a ton of clay and just doing blocks at a time. That simplifies it a little bit. Okay, so we've got all the crystals that we need now, and then finishing up crafting the fishing net is really easy. It just requires a fair bit of string. Got the 32 string right here, and there we go. So we got the fishing nets. Now these just get placed down on top of water, and you can either put a chest down on top of them or anything to collect items, and then you can send it somewhere. So I'm going to put chests down just because we're going to be getting both things that can be cooked and stuff that's just random junk or enchanted items, anything we can get from fishing. So we'll put those on the back burner for now. Next thing we need is the powered furnace. So we can go in and should be good to craft that now. So that's where all the items are going to go. We're going to input them using the laser item relays, and we'll use a hopping item interface because they do need to get pulled out. Got the chest for going on top of those, all the water buckets that we're going to need, and I actually think we're going to upgrade one item laser relay to advanced. That's the one that's going to go on top of the powered furnace, just to make sure that we can whitelist stuff. So I don't actually know if we need to do that, but I'm going to do it in case, just so we can say only this stuff can get input in here. So there's no backup with things that are getting put in there that can't actually be cooked or things we don't want. So the last two miscellaneous things, energy laser relays. One is going to be going on the powered furnace. One is going to be going on the player interface to actually put the energy in our inventory or in our items in our inventory. And then the last thing, the expensive part, the player interface itself. So it's actually not a ton of crafting for this item, but one of the blocks that you're going to use 5 of, the ender casing, is extremely expensive. This is what it takes to make an ender casing. We need 5 of those, so craft those up. A lot of empowered diamantine crystals, and then the wither skull for the player interface. So not a pretty looking block in my opinion, but we're going to place everything down over here. We're not going to need the energizer anymore. I will put the item repairer down somewhere else. Hopefully it doesn't completely get destroyed. There we go. And then I'll just clear out this area for us right over here. Get us a little bit of room to work with. And also I want to kind of dig into the durability of the drill a little bit so that we can see what happens when it gets hooked up. So we're going to put down the fishing nets right now, and I want to do those first because they do take quite some time. I believe the numbers are 12.5 to 18.5 minutes to catch something, which is why I'm putting 4 of them down. If it was faster, I'd do 1, and that should be enough to upkeep with my food. But because they're not guaranteed to get cookable items, and they're also, going pretty slow, taking pretty close to 20 minutes sometimes to get stuff, I just want to be safe and make sure that I'm always going to have food. So I'm going to space these out just because of how chests get put down. Can't put them down in a 2x2, so we'll put them down like this right here, and then the fishing nets go on top of it. It looks a little bit weird if you were to place it down. Can we get on the side of this to place it down? There we go. So they kind of hover over the water, and then when you place the chest down, it looks even weirder. If you click on this, it goes all the way up. But there we go. The chests are now down, good to go, and we can set down the powered furnace. So this is going to have to go into the air a little bit. And I think I'm going to set it up to make it look, I'm going to set it up right here, which means we want to put down the player interface. Oop, for some reason I didn't think I had it on my hotbar. We want to put the player interface down right here. And you can see it says bound to Dr. Ragehard. So it automatically binds to whoever's putting it down. That's why if you want to use it on someone else on the server, you are going to need to use the player probe. And you're going to need to go, I don't know the specifics, but it's essentially you're going to click on them. But it has issues if the person logs off the server, or I believe like is sneaking or does something else, and it also alerts players when they're either connected or disconnected from this. So a little finicky in that case, but not too bad. So then we're going to put the hopper on here, the powered furnace down up here. This is going to have to get an energy laser relay put on it, so I think the best side would be to do the back for that and the back for this, and then we're going to put on the invisibility modifiers on these. And then they can get hooked up, I guess just right here. This should already be hooked up to our system. And it already has an invisibility modifier on it. So there we go. These should start getting crystal flux. And, oh yeah, this one isn't going to show up. It'll show up if we click on it. So there we go. And this should be kept on off. Not really worried about auto-splitting items because we're only going to be cooking like 2 of them. I think it's you only cook salmon and fish. I don't know what else has been added recently. But we're going to do that. And then we need to get the item laser relays, and we've got the advanced one, which I'll put on here. I believe the advanced and regulars can work together, so hopefully, here's hoping that they do. So, oh, you know what, this actually needs to go onto a hopping item interface. So we'll put that down right like that, and the item laser relay up there. Now, I guess you could just put a hopper and put items directly into here. But again, if you're going to hook up a bunch of these, and I might hook up more, it's really nice to have the item laser relays going like that, just so that you don't really need to worry about a huge hopper chain going from chest to chest. So we can connect these up to here and there. And then this needs to, if we click on it, this one, oh, did I not put down the advanced one? Oh, I didn't put down the advanced one. I put down everything but the advanced one. Okay, so we want the advanced one down up there, and then these get connected to it. I was wondering why I couldn't click on it. And then we'll sleep first, just I don't want to get attacked by stuff. Even though stuff doesn't really spawn. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like my view distance is still... I always lower my view distance, and that was a bug a while ago, that with a lower view distance, stuff wouldn't spawn. And that really annoyed me, because in a lot of my series I have spawners, and it kind of makes those useless then. But yeah, so I think if we click on this, we can't whitelist stuff that's going into it. So I think right now we'll leave it as is. This is going to take a while to catch stuff, and I don't have any fish on me right now to whitelist. But once this starts catching stuff, it'll either go in here and it'll cook it, or it'll sit in here, and eventually I will snag some fish and I will whitelist it just to make sure. I don't know if other random things can go in there, like puffer fish. I don't want those. I don't know if those will go into a furnace or not, but this will just be safe. It's not really expensive, so you probably only need an item laser relay, but I went with the advanced because I'm cool. I'm swagging like that. And that should be good. So everything should get input in there. If you wanted this to be further away, you could use another hopping item interface and pull stuff from this using an item laser relay, but I don't really see the point because this is the only item input we're going to have. Now, the last thing is putting... Oh, wait, we already have the energy laser relay on there. I forgot. So you can see that this does have a very small internal buffer of 30,000 crystal flux, and this should be fully charged in our inventory. The range of this is 32, like I said, but much like all the other face blocks, and I guess that's the only way to call them, but there's the phantom energy face, all of these ones, we've used the redstone face, but they're pretty much just wireless blocks. They can all be upgraded using the phantom booster, much like we did with the setup over here. They can have 3 of them on top of them, and they're going to boost the range. Now, I don't know the exact numbers because it doesn't even specify. I think you probably need to look on the wiki for that. But I think a range of 32 is big enough. That'll cover the whole base area. And then whenever items get put in there, it'll pop into my inventory. So if I were to put dirt in there, you can see it pops into my inventory like that at a decent speed. And it doesn't really matter the speed because we're not really going to be getting that many fish popping into here. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Nothing super complicated. Just a nice little quality of life change. And I am going to put the invisibility upgrades on these. So again, just kind of a nice thing to have, a little bit expensive. So if you've got the resources, you might want to do this. It's kind of ActuallyAdditions wireless power and, you know, kind of wireless item transfer. A lot of other mods have these that are a little bit cheaper. So if you're playing in a mod pack, might not be the greatest thing to do. But I say if you're playing with ActuallyAdditions alone, it is very, very nice to have. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please feel free to give it a like as it does help me out a lot. And I will talk to you guys later.